LGBTQI plus right. Recently, a 5 judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court in Supreme and Supreme Chakraborty versus Junior Dominia case unanimously refused to accord legal recognition to the marriage between the persons of the same sex. Accord legal recognition to the marriage between the persons of the same sex. Legal unanimously refused to accord legal recognition to marriage between the person of the same sex union. It is a legal recognition originally created for the same-sex couple in the jurisdiction where they are not legally allowed to marry. It is basically a halfway approach between the non-recognition and the full recognition on two homosexual marriages. It grants right familiar to those of the marriage, and it was first legalized in 90. It grants right familiar to those of marriage and was first legalized in 1999 in the state of the Vermont and the U.S. Several petitions challenge the provision of the Special Marriage Act of 1954, Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, Foreign Marriage Act of 1969, Special Marriage Act, Hindu Marriage Act, Foreign Marriage Act to the extent these legislation do not recognize non-heterosexual marriage. On the issue of a marriage, non-heterosexual, on the issue of a marriage, the court exercising judicial restraint expressly left it for the legislature and executive to decide, citing them being matters of policy. While all 5 judges acknowledged the need to eliminate discrimination against the same-sex couple, did not unanimously agree on granting the queer couple the recognition of a legally recognized civil union. Majority of the 3 judges said that legal acknowledgement of such a union should only occur through enacted legislation. LGBTQI plus right petitioners augmented court party the right of a transgender person to marry. There exists a fundamental right to marry a person of one's own choice under the Constitution, and the court must address the denial of that right. There is a fundamental right to marry a person of one's own choice under the Constitution, and the court must address the denial of that right. If the court recognizes this as a fundamental right, then it would cast an obligation on the state to protect this right. Unanimously held that there was no fundamental, unequivocal right to marry in India. Transgender person have a right to marry under the current framework. A right to enter a civil union for queer couple. Recognition of a civil union for queer couple. Court cannot prescribe a choice of civil union to queer couple, or a government is not obliged to recognize the bouquet of rights flowing from such a union. Sought recognition of the civil union to ensure that the queer couples could get material benefit flowing from a marriage. Civil unions to ensure that the queer couples could get a material benefit. Right to form intimate association falls within the ambit of Article 18. Right enter a union cannot be restricted on the basis of a sexual orientation. Interpretation of a Special Marriage Act. Replacement of the gender-specific terms such as husband and wife with the more inclusive terms party or spouse. Husband and wife. Replacement of a gender-specific term such as husband and wife with the more inclusive terms party or spouse. Of SMA Special Marriage Act violates Article 14, 15, 19, 21 and 25 by not allowing marriage between the same sex. The court declined to invalidate or interpret the Special Marriage Act in a gender-neutral manner, stating that such action would encroach upon the legislative domain and could have a cascading effect on other laws. SMA violated the equality provision of the Constitution. Also hold that the SMA was not unconstitutional for violating Article 14 and 15, and the sole intention of the Special Marriage Act was to enable marriage as it was understood at the time the 1954 Act was passed, that is for heterosexual couples of a person of different faith. Adoption right for non-heterosexual couple. Guidelines of the Central Adoption Resource Authority. CARA, which does not allow the unmarried couple to jointly adopt children, is discriminatory against queer couple who cannot legally marry. Upheld the restriction imposed by the CARA on queer couples from adopting. Observed that striking down the rules may have deleterious, disastrous and anomalous outcome, and only the legislature and executive could remedy. The regulation was discriminating against the queer community and hence was violating of Article 15 of the Constitution against the queer community, excluding the word marital so that it includes both the married and unmarried couples as well as the queer couple so that they too can jointly adopt a child. Other key elements of the judgment court limit the question to secular law. During the hearing, the bench expressed that it would confine the issue only to the Special Marriage Act and would not touch the personal laws. If the court were to interpret the Hindu Marriage Act Hindu Marriage SMA to include LGBTQIA plus marriage, the SC would also have to include the bundle of rights dealing with adoption, guardianship, inheritance available to heterosexual people. Legal milestone in LGBTQI plus right. NALSA, National Nalsa versus Union of India, recognition of non-binary gender entities. Navtesh Singh Johar versus Union of India, decriminalization. Section 377 of IPC. Justice K.S. Puttaswamy, retired. Right to exercise sexual orientation. 2019 Transgender Person Protection of the Right Act. Judicial restraint. Judgment signifies judicial restraint on the part of the Supreme Court wherein it refrained from taking on the role of the legislature to develop, guarantee and enforce fundamental right. Develop, guarantee and enforce fundamental right. Judgment signifies judicial restraint on the part of the Supreme Court wherein it refrained from taking on the role of the legislature. Judgment signifies judicial restraint. Judgment signifies judicial restraint on the part of the Supreme Court wherein it refrained from taking on the role of the legislature to develop, guarantee and enforce fundamental right. Enactment of the law pertaining to marriage comes under the purview of the legislature in terms of Article 245 and 246 and Anti 5 of the concurrent list. Judicial restraint. Judgment signifies judicial restraint on the part of the Supreme Court when different from taking on the role of the legislature to develop, guarantee and enforce fundamental right. Enactment of the law pertaining to marriage comes under the purview of the legislation in terms of Article 245, 246 and Anti 5 of the concurrent list. Right to exercise sexual orientation, decriminalization. Navtesh Singh Johar 2018. Okay, 2000 Transgender Person Act. LGBTQIA+ right across the world. Currently there are more than 130 countries that have decriminalized homosexuality. Netherlands was the first country to legalize the same-sex marriage in 2001. पहला country to legalize the same-sex marriage in 2001. Since then, more than 30 countries around the world they have legalized the same-sex marriage. Dissenting opinions and observations. Several observations in the judgment may pave the way for the future of deliberation and discussion on the right to the LGBTQIA+ community. For example, queerness or the homosexuality is not an urban allied consensus or exception. ठीक है. Queerness or homosexuality is not an urban allied consumption or expression. Prevention of the violence and discrimination against the queer person. The Supreme Court has issued directives to the government and police to prevent discrimination against the queer community. The directives include non-discrimination, public awareness, the helpline for the queer community, safe houses, protection of intersex children. Specific direction to the police include no harassment, freedom of choice, protection of freedom. No harassment, freedom of choice होगी, protection of the freedom, protection against the violence and the preliminary inquiry. Though the judgment came as a setback for the LGBTQIA+ right, particularly in the context of marriage and adoption, the assurance by the union government to constitute a committee under the chairmanship of the cabinet secretary gives a ray of hope in the struggle for equality. Caste census. The state government of Bihar recently released a report on the caste survey conducted in the state after resolution passed by the state legislature for the same caste system in India. Caste is an institution uniquely associated with the Indian subcontinent. Caste is by definition a closed social system whose membership is acquired by virtue of birth. Social system. Many of the scriptural rules of the caste are designed to prevent the mixing of caste rules ranging from marriage, food sharing, social interaction to occupation. Although it is an institution characteristic of Indian society, caste has spread to the major non-Hindu communities of the Indian subcontinent, especially to a Muslim, Christian and the Sikh. Census in India. Census एक union subject है. Entry 69 of the union list under Schedule 7. Census Union Subject 69 list Schedule 7 under Article 246 of the Constitution. Center Union 69 Schedule 7 Article 246. Census Act of 1948 provides a plan for the conducting of population census along with the duties and responsibilities of census officer. Census Act of 1948 population census along with the duties and responsibilities of census officer. Registrar General and the Census Commissioner of India under the Ministry of Home Affairs is entrusted with the responsibility to conduct the decadal census. Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India. Later, this office was also entrusted with the task of implementation of the Birth and the Death Registration Act of 1961, Second Backward Class Commission, Model Commission Act of 1990, estimate that the backward class OBC population at 52%. Okay. The state government of Bihar said that the exercise was not a full-scale census but a social survey focused on caste demography. ये full-scale census नहीं था, ये एक social survey था that focused on caste demography. After the release of the caste survey data by the Bihar government, several other states, including Pakistan, Odisha, Maharashtra, Karnataka, etc., they are planning to or conducting the caste survey. History of the caste census in India. Caste-wise enumeration of the population was introduced under the British colonial administration in 1881. Caste-wise enumeration of population was introduced under the British colonial administration in 1881. Okay, after the release of the several other states, including Rajasthan, Odisha, America, planning or conducting the caste survey. Caste-wise enumeration of population was made under the British colonial administration in 1881 and continued till 1931 census. In 1941, the caste data was collected but not published. So, after independence, how the government of India abandoned the full caste enumeration on the apprehension that it may strengthen the caste division and perpetuate the caste system. Every census in the strengthen caste division, perpetuate caste system, and every census in an independent India has published data on the scheduled caste on scheduled caste and scheduled tribe but not other castes. In 2011, the socio-economic and caste census was conducted through a comprehensive program involving Ministry of. In 2011, the socio-economic caste census. Every census independent in India has published data on SC and ST but not on other caste. In 2011, the socio-economic and caste census was conducted through a comprehensive program involving the Ministry of Rural Development, Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Elimination, Office of Registrar General and Census Commissioner, India and State Government Duty Administration. In 2016, the socio-economic caste census data excluding the caste data was finalized and published. In 2016, SECC data excluding caste data. In 2016, SECC data excluding caste data was finalized and published. It's a Ministry of Comprehensive Program, Rural Development, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Office of Registrar General and Census Commissioner, the State Government Duty. In 2018, the Central Government in an affidavit submitted to the Supreme Court stated that the caste tribe data derived from the socio-economic census is deemed defective and not suitable for use. Affidavit submitted to the Supreme Court that the caste or tribe data derived from the census is defective and not suitable for use. Argument for the caste census. Constitutional mandate. Article 340 mandates the appointment of a commission to investigate and conditions of a socially and educationally backward class and make recommendation as to the steps that should be taken by the government. Constitutional mandate. Okay, Article 340 mandates the appointment of a commission to investigate the condition of a socially and educationally backward class and make recommendation as to the steps that should be taken by the government. Article 340 mandates the appointment of a commission. Argument for caste census. Argument again. It will mandate the appointment of a commission to investigate the condition of a socially and the economically backward classes and make recommendations as to the steps that should be taken by the government. Social justice and reform reservation policy. It will aid the government in determining the inclusion of new castes into existing category or the graduation advanced caste creamy layer out of these category. Okay. Argument against the caste census. Constitutional provision. Constitution speak of backward classes and not backward caste. The word caste is used in the condition only in relation to scheduled caste. Difficulty in data enumeration. Given thousands of the castes and the subcastes in India, collecting caste data and making a sense of the same is difficult. Census data may also enable a more equitable distribution of the reservation benefit by making it possible to divide the quota within quota subcategorization system. Further mobilization and the counter mobilization and by various groups seeking gains will inevitably influence the enumeration process and result in bogus or biased data. Policy making. The caste census data will help in the formulation of a more informed and evidence-based policy making to cater to the needs and the demands of the informed evidence-based policy making to cater to the needs and the demands of the underprivileged and downtrodden. Difficulties due to empirical complication of the intercaste marriage, hypergamy, migration, which over time they have produced multiple caste application. Promoting diversity and inclusivity. It can be used to monitor the representation of a different caste in elected bodies, that is civil service representation बढ़ जाएगा civil service institution, thereby promoting diversity, inclusivity, judicial requirement. In the Indira Sawhney case, the Supreme Court held that the states must conclude the backwardness of a particular class of people only after the proper assessment and the objective evaluation. The Supreme Court also heard that such a conclusion must be subject to periodic review by a permanent body of experts. Judicial requirement. In the Indira Sawhney case, the Supreme Court held that the state must conclude the backwardness of a particular class of people only after proper assessment and objective evaluation. The Supreme Court also held that such a conclusion must be subject to periodic review by permanent body of experts. Annihilation of the caste. Many experts observe that to abolish a caste, it is essential to first abolish the caste derived privilege, and to do that the state must first map caste and their socio-economic status, privilege and deprivation. Many experts observe that to abolish caste, it is essential to first abolish caste derived privilege, and to do that the state must first map caste and their socio-economic status, privilege and deprivation. Okay. Potential for political measures. They are concerned that the caste data should be exploited for the political purposes, including the vote bank politics and identity-based mobilization. Rising demand for reservation. Critics say a caste-based census may give rise to the demand for more reservation in job and educational institutions from various communities. Risk of resentment. Focus on the caste-based statistics could lead to the resentment among the different groups. The focusing on caste-based statistics could lead to resentment among the different groups. It may exacerbate the inter-caste tension, hinder effort towards building a more inclusive and focusing on the caste-based statistic could lead to resentment among different groups. अगर हम कास्ट बेस्ड स्टैटिस्टिक रिस्क ऑफ रिजनमेंट फोकस ऑन द कास्ट बेस्ड स्टैटिस्टिक could lead to resentment among the different group. It may exacerbate intercaste tension and hinder effort towards building a more inclusive and a harmonious society. Way forward, create political consent. Decision on such issues of broad socio-political consent should be taken through a broad political consent. Decision on such issues of broad social political consent should be taken through a broad political consensus. तो पॉलिटिकल कंसेंसस होना चाहिए, इन्वॉल्व अ वाइड रेंज ऑफ स्टेक होल्डर्स इंक्लूडिंग द कम्युनिटी लीडर्स, एक्टिविस्ट एंड एक्सपर्ट इन द प्लानिंग एंड एक्सिक्यूशन ऑफ द कास्ट सेंसस. सोशल साइंटिस्ट एंड द रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूशन कैन बी इन्वॉल्व इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ इन्यूमरेशन ऑफ द कास्ट डेटा टू एंश्योर दैट द प्रोसेस रिमेन्स अनबायस्ड. आइडेंटिफाई कास्ट एंड सबकास्ट. Apparently, socio-anthropological study can be done at the state and the district level to establish all sect and subcaste present in the population. Socio-anthropological study. Okay, identify caste and subcaste, identify social anthropological study. Use of technology. Emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data analytics, etc. can be used to analyze and assess the caste-based data and derive meaningful conclusion. Periodic review and updating. Recognize that the social structure evolve over time and caste identities may change. So design the census with the flexibility to adapt to these changes and plan for periodic reviews to update the data and ensure its relevance. Youth-led development. Why news? Mera Yuva Bharat My Bharat platform has been launched for the youth on the National Unity Day. My Yuva Bharat एक autonomous body है that is being set up by the Government of India to provide an overarching institutional mechanism. Autonomous body set up by the Government of India, overarching institutional mechanism provided by the technology for youth development and the youth-led development. It is an initiative of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sport to empower the Indian youth through social mobility, educational equity and practical skill. To empower Indian youth through social mobility, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sport to empower Indian youth through social mobility, educational equity and practical skill. Social mobility, educational equity, practical skill. Social mobility, educational equity and practical skill. Educational practical skill. The platform connects youth with programs and learning opportunities in business, government department and non-profit organization. My Yuva Bharat will benefit the youth in the age group of 15 to 29 in line with the definition of the youth in the National Youth Policy. In case of the program component specifically meant for the adolescent, the beneficiaries will be the age group of 10 से 19. Objective of My Yuva Bharat: leadership development in youth, better alignment between the aspirations of the youth and the community need, enhance efficiency to the coverage of existing program. सारे प्रोग्राम को कवर कर लेंगे तो एफिशिएंसी बढ़ जाएगी. एंश्योरिंग एक्सेसिबिलिटी बाय क्रिएटिंग अ फिजिकल इकोसिस्टम, अ ब्लेंड ऑफ फिजिकल एज वेल एज डिजिटल experiences. Create a centralized youth database. Act as a one-stop shop for young people and minister. Act as a one-stop shop for young people and minister. Why does India need to focus on youth? To deep demographic debate. India is one of the youngest countries in the world with an average age of 29 years. About 65% of the population is below 35 years old, while 50% of the population is below 25 years old. 65% population below 35, 50% population while 50 इसमें 35 में 65% पॉपुलेशन 35 साल के नीचे, और इसमें इन 65% वालों में से 50% बिलो 25 ईयर्स हुए. इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट. प्रॉपर्ली एजुकेटेड एंड स्किल्ड यूथ कैन हेल्प इन एक्सपैंडिंग द इकोनॉमी. इंडिया इज द लार्जेस्ट स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम इन द वर्ल्ड. दे आर इमर्जिंग एज अ मेजर सोर्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट क्रिएशन. Political engagement. Increasing the qualities like citizenship, dedication to rural community service among all youth segment is essential for the nation's political and the social development. अगर हम उसमें उनके अंदर वो सब क्वालिटी जैसे सिटीजनशिप क्वालिटी, डेडिकेशन टू कम्युनिटी सर्विस, तो नेशनल का पॉलिटिकल डेवलपमेंट भी होगा, सोशल डेवलपमेंट भी होगा. टेसिंग सोशल मैनी सोशल चैलेंजेस एज जेंडर इनइक्वालिटी, एक्सेस टू क्वालिटी एजुकेशन एंड हेल्थ केयर कैन बी एक्चुअली एड्रेस बाय फोकसिंग ऑन द यूथ. Youth can play a major role in the protection and the preservation of the nature, including the natural resources. The social challenges, political and economic dimensions, deep demographic dividend, protect the environment. Indian youth is passionately adopting the life for the environment movement and promoting its underlying principle to move forward with sustainable development. Global competitiveness. In an increasingly interconnected world, countries with a skilled and a youthful workforce, they are being better positioned to compete effectively on the global stage. India's youth can significantly contribute to the nation's global standing. India's youth can significantly contribute to the nation's global standing. Challenges faced by the youth of the India. Poor education include poor quality of education, less emphasis on vocational education, lack of access to higher education and higher dropout rate. The unemployment rate among the educated youth is quite high, which is significantly higher than that in most developed and developing countries. In 2005, the estimated youth unemployment rate in India was 23.22%. In 2022, the estimated youth unemployment rate in India is 23.22%. Exploitative workforce include paid low wages. Youth unemployment rate is 23.22%. In youth unemployment rate in India is 23.22%. Is quite high, significantly higher than the most developed and developing countries, includes paid low wages, working long hour, harassment, especially women, and having no social security or legal protection. Okay, low wages, long work hour, harassment, having no social security or legal protection include substance abuse, violence, crime, radicalization, communalism, gender discrimination. These problems affect their moral values, civic sense, social responsibility, and national integration. सब अब्यूज़ होता है, क्राइम होता है, वायलेंस होता है, रेडिकलाइजेशन, कम्युनलिज्म एंड जेंडर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन. सो इट अफेक्ट्स देयर मॉरल वैल्यूज, सिविक सेंस, सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी and national integration. Psychological issues, low confidence and the self-belief throw them into the phase of depression when they are not able to achieve their dream. Low confidence and self-belief. They even go to the extent of suicide. Recent case in the education hub of quota, cultural and the social expectation, traditional cultural norms and the societal expectation. They can sometimes restrict the choices and aspiration. Cultural norm and societal expectation. They can restrict the choices and aspirations of young people, particularly in terms of education, then their career and their marriage. Social media education in youth, it is marked by excessive use impacting their mental health and relationship and productivity. Initiative promoting the role of the youth. Education, new education policy 2020, समग्र शिक्षा and indicators of school education 2018. हेल्थ एंड आयुष्मान भारत हेल्थ एंड वेलनेस सेंटर, प्रधानमंत्री जन आरोग्य योजना, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप स्टार्टअप एंड सेटअप इंडिया, साइंस सिटी सेंटर, इनोवेशन हब, इम्प्रिंट, impacting research, innovation and technology. Impacting research, innovation and technology. 2. Infrastructure, smart cities mission, Atal mission for rejuvenation and transformation, PM Gati Shakti. Skill, प्रधानमंत्री कौशल विकास योजना, skill संकल्प, skill acquisition and knowledge aware, skill acquisition, knowledge awareness for livelihood promotion. Innovation, Atal tinkering lab. Way for political empowerment, training the youth organization and the civil society organization to lobby and advocate on youth issues. Training youth organization and the civil society organization. Training youth and civil society organization to lobby and advocate on youth issues, involving youth in policy making, decision making process to address their unique need. देखो हर यूथ की नीड अच्छी है, उनके अलग है, उनके कंसर्न्स अलग हैं, तो उनको इन्वॉल्व करो ना इन पॉलिसी डिसीजन मेकिंग. तो इसके लिए हमें यूथ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और सिविल सोसाइटी को ट्रेन करने की जरूरी है, जो लॉबी एंड एडवोकेट ऑन यूथ इशू. ब्रिज स्किल गैप. Importance must be given to vocational skill, internship, embedded apprenticeship degree, vocational skill, internship, apprenticeship degree to ensure the student receive the hand-on learning experience in real-life scenario, promoting soft skills such as creativity, decision-making, strategic thinking, interpersonal skill, leadership skill, cognitive intelligence, and time management. Evidence suggests that a better health facilities improve economic productivity. अगर हेल्थ फैसिलिटी अच्छी है तो इकोनॉमिक प्रोडक्टिव, बेटर हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज इम्प्रूव इकोनॉमिक प्रोडक्टिविटी. Promoting access and participation. Special initiatives and drives, they are needed for marginalized communities and certain regions such as rural areas, Northeast India, etc. Special initiatives and drives are needed for marginalized community. Promoting access and participation. Special initiatives and drives are needed for marginalized community and certain regions such as rural areas in Northeast India. Aging population. United Nations Population Fund of India has released India's Aging Report 2023. Indian Aging Report 2023 represents a thorough review of the living condition and the welfare of the older individuals in India. The report was prepared in collaboration with the International Institute for Population Science. International Institute for Population Science. India Aging Report 2023 represents a thorough review of the living condition and the welfare of the older individuals in India. Sharp growth in the elderly population is observed from 2010 onward, along with a decline in the age group of below 15 years, indicating rapidity of aging in India. Significant interstate variation in absolute levels and growth of the elderly population. Compared to the southern and the western India, central and the northeastern region, they have the younger group of state. Significant interstate variation in the compared to southern, western, central, northeastern region, western India, central and northeastern region, they have a younger group of state. Challenges of the aging population, social issues, feminization. Women living longer than men of aging poverty is inherently gendered in old age, when older women are more likely to be widowed, living alone with no income and with fewer assets of their own and fully dependent on family for support. Ruralization of aging. Around the census of India 2011, around 71% of the older person they live in rural area. These are more vulnerable to income insecurity, lack of access to adequate and the quality health care, isolation in comparison to urban counterpart. Aging of the aged. During 2000 and 2005, the total population of the country grew by 34%, while the population of 60 plus year grew by 103%. Isolation and loneliness will increase due to the trend of nuclear families, lack of availability of the social security system. Nuclear family है, social security system नहीं है, gender based discrimination of the gender women etc. economy. The productivity of the nation will fall along with the labor force shortage. ठीक है, प्रोडक्टिविटी चूँकि लेबर फोर्स शॉर्टेज, प्रोडक्टिविटी कम हो जाएगी. पब्लिक डिसेविंग and old age income insecurity, healthcare and long-term care. The elderly often require more intensive healthcare system and long-term care, which can strain the healthcare system. The elderly often require more extensive healthcare service and long-term care. The elderly often require more extensive healthcare service and long-term care, which can strain the healthcare. More extensive healthcare service and long-term care. Psychological issue. The longitudinal aging study in India. Longitudinal aging study in India survey find that the incidence of depression was seen to be rising with the increasing age and was higher among the elderly women than men. Ways to transform the aging population into opportunity. Okay, ये चीज़ पढ़ना. United Nations Population Fund of India, headquartered New York City, US, established a trust fund in 1967 and began operation in 1969. United Nations for Population Fund is a subsidiary organization of United Nations. It received the overall policy guidance from the United Nations Economic and the Social Council, ensures sexual and reproductive rights and choice for all, especially women and young people. Its work is guided by the 1994 Program of Action of the Integrated Conference of Population and Development. Among they achieved 3 zeros by 2030. It includes ending unmet need for family planning, ending preventable mental health, ending preventable maternal death, family planning, maternal death, ending gender-based violence and harmful practices, collaborates with many other development and humanitarian agencies in the field, particularly WHO, UNICEF, UNDP, UNIT. It works in more than 150 countries and territories. The State of the World Population Report is released. Factor which contribute to population age: increased survival at older age, declining fertility, and reduction in mortality. 1.1 billion person age 60 years or above in 2022 के 60 साल से ऊपर 1.1 billion. 20.8% is the projected proportion of the population age 60 years and older by 2050, doubling from 10.5% in 2005. 2005 में 10.5% है, ये 20.8%. 2.5% of elderly men and 8.6% of elderly women were living alone in India according to the last survey. 30% of elderly women and 28% of the men suffered from one chronic morbid. Ways to transform the aging population into opportunity: promoting elderly self-help groups. Elderly self-help group should also be linked with the livelihood mission, making them more productive and self-reliant. Promoting elderly self-help group. Elderly self-help group should also Promoting elderly self-help group should also be linked with livelihood mission, making them more productive and self-reliant. They should be brought under the government monitoring, and as a regulatory body can be set up for the same. Also ensuring aging in situ at home should be a priority rather than an old age home. It in situ at home. It includes all those economic activities, products and services designed to meet the needs of the people over the 50, promoting silver economy. Okay, include all those economic activities on those products on the activity, product and service designed to meet the needs of people over 50. Promoting digital literacy among the whole population will enhance their productivity and will promote the integration of the society. Senior citizens lack awareness about the various schemes and programs meant for them. As per the last report, only 12% of the elderly are aware of the maintenance and the Welfare Act. Promote corporate sector involvement in the elder care, expand service for the elderly, including the home health care, crèche-like facilities or equipped daycare centers and assisted living facility. Home health care, assisted living facility, develop age-friendly infrastructure. Initiative taking. एक है तुम्हारा सबसे पहले मैड्रिड इंटरनेशनल प्लान ऑफ एक्शन ऑन एजिंग मैड्रिड 2002 सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल 3 एंश्योरिंग हेल्दी लाइफ एंड वेलबींग एट ऑल एजेस यूनाइटेड नेशन डिकेड ऑफ हेल्दी एजिंग 2020 से 2030 इंडिया कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आर्टिकल 41 मैंडेट्स द वेलबींग ऑफ द सीनियर सिटीजन लेजिस्लेटिव मेंटेनेंस एंड वेलफेयर ऑफ द सीनियर सिटीजन एक्ट 2006-7 नेशनल पॉलिसी ऑन ओल्डर पर्सन 1999 सीनियर सिटीजन वेलफेयर फंड 2016 सोशल सिक्योरिटी इन द वेलफेयर स्कीम इंदिरा गांधी नेशनल ओल्ड एज पेंशन स्कीम 2013 वन ऑफ द 5 सब स्कीम ऑफ द नेशनल स्कूल असिस्टेंट सोशल असिस्टेंस प्रोग्राम प्रधानमंत्री वया वंदना योजना 2000 प्रोवाइड नेशनल सोशल सिक्योरिटी और पेंशन 2007-2017 अटल वायो अभ्युदय योजना 2021 इज एन अम्ब्रेला स्कीम द फॉलोइंग स्कीम अंडर इट नेमली स्कीम ऑफ इंटीग्रेटेड प्रोग्राम फॉर सीनियर सिटीजन स्टेट एक्शन प्लान फॉर सीनियर सिटीजन राष्ट्रीय वायोश्री योजना लाइवलीहुड एंड स्किलिंग इनिशिएटिव फॉर ठीक है स्टेट एक्शन प्लान फॉर सीनियर सिटीजन राष्ट्रीय वायोश्री लाइवलीहुड एंड स्किलिंग इनिशिएटिव प्रमोटिंग सिल्वर इकोनॉमिक कंसेशन एंड डिबेट इंक्लूड्स यात्री मित्र सर्विस बाय रेलवे. ओके इसके बाद हम नेक्स्ट पार्ट पे पढ़ते हैं. थैंक यू.